Good evening, everyone. This is Vibha Nasheen, and I'm doing a reading from the book Messages from the Masters by Dr. Brian Weiss. Yesterday, we read till chapter 2, and today we are beginning chapter 3. The chapter title is Coming Back. I apologize for the background noise, really can't help much today. We choose when we will come into our physical state and when we will leave. We know when we have accomplished what we were sent down here to accomplish. When you have had the time to rest and to re energize your soul, you are allowed to choose your re entry into the physical state. Not accidentally or coincidentally are we born into our families. We choose our circumstances and establish a plan for our lives before we are even conceived. Our planning is aided by the loving spiritual beings who eventually guide and protect us while we are in our physical bodies as our life's plan unfolds. Destiny is another name for the unfolding dramas we have already chosen. This is considerable evidence that we actually see the major events in the life to come, the points of destiny, in the planning stage prior to our births. This is clinical evidence gathered by myself and other therapists from our patients who have experienced pre birth memories while under hypnosis, during meditation, or through spontaneous recall. Mapped out are the key people we will meet, our reunions with soulmates and soul companions, even the actual places where these events will eventually occur. Some cases of deja vu, that feeling of familiarity as if we have been in that moment or that place before, can be explained as we dimly remembered life preview coming to its fruition in the actual physical lifetime. The same is true for all people. Often, people who are adopted wonder whether their life plan has been somehow disrupted. The answer is no. Adoptive parents are chosen as well as the biological ones. There are reasons for everything, and no coincidences exist on the path of destiny. Although every human being has a life plan, we also have free will, as do our parents and everyone with whom we interact. Our lives and theirs will be affected by the choices we make while in physical state. But the destiny points will still occur. We will meet the people we had planned to meet, and we will face the opportunities and obstacles that we had planned long before our births. How we handle these meetings, however, our reactions and subsequent decisions are the expressions of our free will. Destiny and free will coexist and interact all the time. They are complementary, not contradictory. The consensus of evidence from my regression patients is that the soul appears to make a reservation for a particular physical body around the time of conception. No other soul can occupy that body. The union of body and soul is not completed, however, until the moment of birth. Before this time, the soul of the unborn child can be both in and out of the body and is often aware of experiences on the other side. It may also be aware of events outside its body and even outside the mother's body. The soul can never be harmed. Neither miscarriages nor abortions harm the soul. When a pregnancy does not come into term, it is not unusual for the same soul to occupy the body of a subsequent child of the same parents. After I gave a lecture on paranormal paranormal phenomena, a graduate psychology student told me about a dream he had when his wife was 4 months pregnant. At that time, the sex of the fetus was not known. One night, his unborn daughter came to him in a vivid dream, announcing her name, describing her immediate past life, and explaining why she was choosing to be born to this young couple, her karmic purpose and plans. He awoke with the riveting dream sharply etched in his mind. He turned toward his wife. I just had the most amazing dream, he began, at which point she cut him off. Me too, she explained. I dreamt our daughter came to me. Same name, same past life, same plans, same details, same dream. They were both shocked that both mother and father received the same message during simultaneous dreams served to validate the information and to make the knowledge even more powerful. 5 months later, a beautiful baby girl was born to them. Mary, an Italian woman in her late 50s, was amazed by the vividness and what turned out to be the accuracy of her recall of an incident a month before her birth. And she was yet in the womb. Mary had never been hypnotized or regressed before, and she was having a difficult time accepting her experiences as actual memory, even though the detail and clarity were amazing to her. I kind of don't believe it, she began. When you are talking and you said you are in mother's womb, I saw myself sitting in her womb and she was sitting at a table. Mary went on to describe her mother's Bronx apartment in great detail, especially the kitchen, where her aunt and mother were sitting, drinking tea, and eating the special Italian cookies that her aunt had always made for the Christmas holidays. Mary also seemed surprised that the Christmas tree was already up and decorated, since Christmas was still 2 weeks away. The conversation between Mary's mother and aunt had turned very serious. While she was sitting there having a cup of tea, Mary continued, I saw her and my aunt, and I was naturally in the womb there, and she said to my aunt, I'm going to die, and I'm not going to raise this girl child. Incredulous, Mary explored the memory. Carefully, she described her thoughts as she watched and listened from the womb. And I said to myself, this is weird. My mother did die. This was about a week or two before Christmas. My mother did die on the 14th of January from pneumonia. Mary paused, then looked up excitedly. Now I can't wait to go home to call my aunt to ask her. Was she sitting there and did she say this to you? I'm sure she will remember and she's going to think I'm nuts. But this is what I saw the two ladies doing, and I never knew this before. Mary had never been in her mother's old apartment after her birth, nor had her aunt told her about the conversation. Her aunt could, however, be accounted on to remember exactly what was said. According to Mary, the 80-year-old woman was sharp as a tack. Within 2 hours, Mary reported back. She had contacted her aunt, who confirmed everything. I called her and I said, Aunt Mary, it's Cookie. She said, Who the hell died now? I said, Nobody died, but I'm going to talk fast and you just listen to me. And I told her what I want to know. Were you at the table with my mother, with the plate of cookies and the Christmas tree was lit up in the... Her aunt had cut her off. Who the hell told you? She demanded. I'm not even going to go into explanation to tell you, but tell me what happened that day. Mary's aunt said, I came over with a hot plate of the cookies, which I made for your mother, which were her favorite cookies. And she would eat them as she rubbed her big fat belly, and she used to say, "This is for my little cookie." I have the nickname Cookie today, Mary explained. Everybody calls me Cookie because I love those things so much. According to her aunt, Mary's mother had eaten two cookies and stared at the Christmas tree. Now, this was 2 weeks before Christmas, Mary explained. She put up the tree early because she thought I was going to be a Christmas baby. Sitting at the table, the pregnant woman told her sister, "Mary, I'm not going to live to see this child raised. I will see her, and I know it will be a girl, and I want it named Rosemary if I do not make it, but I will see her. I know that, but I know I'm going to die." Aunt Mary had responded, "No, this is ridiculous." But Mary's mother was determined to have her say. "Look at the Christmas tree and put a present under it every year for me, even though I'm not there," she continued. Up to that point in the pregnancy, Mary's mother had been in excellent health. There was no physical reason to justify the ominous prediction. Lo and behold, her aunt had continued, "Your mother and had a little sniffle. That's all she had. Christmas Day she came down with pneumonia. You had complications being born. Your mother died of lobar pneumonia, and you were born and you survived." "And it is absolutely true," Mary told her aunt. Aunt Mary, meanwhile, continued to demand, "Who the hell told you?" "I guess I can see and I can hear from the womb," Mary admitted. Now I believe it. Her aunt's recollections and confirmed and enriched her own emotional and vivid experience. Mary still had some questions for her aunt, and she was able to fill in even more blanks. She discovered that even her mother's kitchen and apartment were exactly as she has observed them. Aunt Mary told her that she had named her according to her mother's instructions. She then repeated her dead sister's request to put presents under the future Christmas trees. I asked, "Did you do it?" And she said no. We both smiled. Vanessa is a young Hispanic woman who has had an incredibly difficult life thus far. Widowed after her husband succumbed to a sudden illness, she was having a difficult time coping with her grief. I met her at one of my large workshops, where I picked her at random from the audience to demonstrate an individual regression. As an audience of 500 looked on expectantly and her father watched anxiously, she went into a deep trance. The important part of Vanessa's regression occurred in her mother's womb, in utero, before Vanessa's birth. In a deep state of relaxed concentration, she described the beautiful and peaceful light that permeated both her and the womb, providing a spiritual nourishment that complemented the nourishment of her mother's body. She could feel the love and welcome of her parents. At this moment, Vanessa's facial expression changed from a blissful state to one of astonishment and awe. "I'm aware of everything," she stated, "both inside and outside of the womb. I know so much. I can see and feel everything." Vanessa seemed to be stunned by the depth of her awareness from within her mother's womb. Her eyelids fluttered under closed lids as she went silent. She later told me that in that moment she was observing many things. Later, her father would confirm details of scenes she had glimpsed before her birth. I can see ahead. I can see the events of my life to come. They have a purpose. They are not accidents, I thought, she said firmly, shifting to a higher perspective. As she experienced the light, the sense of heightened awareness, and the recognition of her life's plan and destiny, the grief she had been carrying around began to lift. Her life was being transformed in the present time through memories and experiences rooted in her own in utero experience. Memories from the in utero period are important for many reasons. They promote clinical improvements in patients whose symptoms derive from early childhood traumas and relationships. In addition, these memories demonstrate that an actively engaged consciousness exists before birth, that the fetus and infant are aware of so much more than we thought. They are perceiving and integrating a great deal of information. In light of this knowledge, we should rethink how we interact with these tiny beings. They are keenly tuned into the expression of love that we communicate to them through words, thoughts, and feelings. In the second day of the workshops, one of those strangely simultaneous life events occurred before the entire group. Again, I picked up a volunteer to demonstrate an individual regression, this time using a more rapid type of hypnotic induction. Anna, the volunteer patient, had missed the previous day because of an illness. Nobody had told her about the regression with Vanessa. Slipping quickly and deeply into the trance state, Anna also went back to the in utero period. She began to describe the beautiful golden white light, her awareness of events both inside and outside her mother's body, and her own, the reasons she was choosing these parents and this coming life, and how her life would be constructed and structured to best accomplish her soul's objectives. I was amazed. Even though I occasionally encounter such simultaneous or synchronous events in my work, I'm still very surprised by their statistical improbability. The entire audience was stunned. Only Anna was aware that what was transpiring was the nearly exact repetition of the previous day's regression with Vanessa. Perhaps the group needed to hear the message twice that we are not here by some coincidence of nature. We are divine beings enrolled for a while in this planetary school, and we have devised our curriculum in order to enhance the learning process. We are from the light, yet we are of the light, and we are so much wiser than we could ever imagine. All we need to do is to remember. Amazing childhood memories. There are 7 planes, 7 through which we must pass before we are returned. One of them is the plane of transition. There you wait. In that plane, it is determined what you will take back with you into the next life. We are born with a considerable memory of our true home. The other side, that beautiful dimension that we have just left in order to enter a physical body once again. We are born with a tremendous capacity to receive and to give love, to experience pure joy, and to experience the present moment fully. As babies, we do not worry about the past or the future. We feel and live spontaneously and completely in the moment, as we were meant to experience this physical dimension. The assault on our mind begins when we are very young children. We are indoctrinated with parental, societal, cultural, and religious values and opinions that suppress our inborn knowledge. Should we resist this onslaught, we are threatened with fear, guilt, ridicule, criticism, and humiliation. Ostracism, withdrawal of love, or physical and emotional abuse may also loom. Our parents, our teachers, our society, and our culture can and often do teach us dangerous falsehoods. Our world is evidence of this as it staggers recklessly towards irreversible destruction. If we allow them, children can show us the way out. There is a well known story in which a mother enters her infant's room and finds her 4-year old child hovering over the baby's crib. You must tell me about heaven and about God. The toddler implores his sibling. I'm beginning to forget. We have much to learn from our children before they forget. In this life and in all of our others, we too have been children. We have remembered and we have forgotten. And to save ourselves and to save our world now, we must remember again. We must courageously overcome the brainwashing that has caused us so much grief and despair. We must reclaim our capacity for love and for joy. We must become fully human once again, as we were when we were young. A mother whose son is now in his 20s told me about her son's strange behavior when he was 3. The family's dog had just died, and she left her son with the dog as she went into the next room to phone the veterinarian to make arrangements for the dog's body. When she returned, a stunning sight awaited her. I come into the room and the dog all wrapped. His feet were wrapped with band-aids and butter. He buttered the dog all the way, all over the head and the tail, and he wrapped the whole dog, dead dog, and all this stuff. I said, "My God, what are you doing?" Her son answered, "Mommy, I'm making sure that she slides into heaven faster." And I thought, she continued, "Oh, that must be something he must have seen on Sesame Street or whatever." I mentioned this some years later, before I knew about past lives, to a friend who said very nonchalantly over a cup of tea, "Oh, he must have been an Egyptian. That's what they did when their dogs died. In a past life, he was an Egyptian, and he buried his dog wrapped in oil and bandages." The next day, her friend brought over a book depicting the burial practices of the ancient Egyptians. When she showed me the picture in the book she brought me the next day, it was exactly what our dog looked like. It was scary. I asked my son if he remembered doing that with the dog, and he said he did. And he said that the minute she died, she knew that's what he had to do. He had to go take care of her because her soul was just over her body. He understood this at 3 years old and went to work. She concluded, "I'm convinced now that he was an Egyptian, which is great because we are Jewish and it's being nice blending of our cultures." The writer Carrie Williams told me about another fascinating case. This one of 2-year-old twin boys living in New York City. Their father was a prominent physician. One day he and his wife observed the twins speaking a strange language to each other, a language more sophisticated than the ones toddlers often invent. Rather than using made up words for familiar objects like television or telephone, these twins were speaking a much more complete vernacular. Their parents had never heard these words. They brought the boys to the linguistic department of Columbia University, where a professor of ancient languages identified their baby talk as Aramaic. Aramaic is a virtually extinct language now spoken only in a remote area of Syria. This ancient Semitic language was primarily spoken in the environs of Palestine around the time of Christ. You cannot pluck such an ancient tongue from late night cable television, even in New York. You can, however, retrieve this knowledge from your past life memory banks. Children are especially adept at this. For example, you can ask your young child if he or she remembers when they were big before. Listen to the answer because it may be more than the product of an active imagination. Your child may actually provide details of a past life. Observing the joy and spontaneity of children at play is always rewarding. Many of us have forgotten how to have fun and enjoy the simple pleasures of life. We worry too much about concepts such as success and failure, what kind of impression we are going to make on others, and about the future. We have forgotten how to play and have fun, and our children can remind us. They remind us of our earliest values, of those things that are also really important in life: joy, fun, mindfulness, of the present moment, trust, and the value of good relationships. Our children have so much to teach us. That brings me to the end of the session today. We will continue to go through the second part of chapter 3 tomorrow at the same time, 7 p.m., on my Facebook page. Till that time, this is Vibha Nashin signing off. Take care.